More than 1 in 3 people will face cancer in their lifetime. Unfortunately, fear can stop you from getting your cancer screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear to act. Cancer screening is safe, effective, and accessible for everyone, including free or low-cost screening programs. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com right now for free screening resources and recommendations from the American Cancer Society. Don't wait. Early detection can save your life. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com today. Cancerscreeninfo.com.
While traveling, it's usually best to pack light. When it comes to money, carrying some cash and having an alternative like Zelle is a great idea. Zelle's an easy way to send and receive money with people you trust. At any U.S. bank, it's already in thousands of different banking apps, and it's money straight into your bank account in minutes fast. Look for Zelle in your banking app today. Safe travels.
Welcome to the 132nd episode of Social Suplex's podcast about AEW with a proclivity for positivity. Welcome to All Things Elite. I am your host, Floyd Johnson, and it's a shock. I know you're used to hearing the silky smooth tunes of Mr. Austin Sumowitz, but he is taking a week off to get some rest. If y'all don't know, he pretty much is one of the heads of a sports network. So he's had a really, really long, exhausting week. He looks forward to getting back next week. We got some notes from him. He sent a special message to all of you. But until then, with us is our frequent and consistent and host, Mr. from the Trick or Treater podcast, Mr. JR Perez. How are you doing today, JR?
I am doing well, Floyd. Actually, as we just got done with finals at my university where I work at, so it's a sign of relief for every student, staff, and faculty on campus as we're going to enter into our holiday break for the next 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, I know that. I was just talking to Austin's sister, Sydney, and she was talking about how she was getting through the finals and getting through the rest. I know it's a very stressful time for all our college students. I haven't been in college in 20 years, roughly, so I don't know that stress. But winter is here, and the big story of the week is winter is coming too. Will be your Winter is Coming to preview and prediction show. I thank our good friend JR for stepping into the show. But before we get started on our review from Dynamite last week, I want to make sure you're downloading this fine show on Google or Apple Podcasts. Please leave a rating or a review. And if you are so inclined, you can leave a donation on our podcast provider, Red Circle. Please follow us. Please support us by following at AT Elite Pod, at Social Suplex, at Austin Sumowitz. Sumowitz is SZUMOWICZ, or me at Floyd Johnson Jr. Or JR, what's your Twitter?
Yeah, they can find us at Trick or Treat Pod. Once again, it's Trick or Treat Pod on Twitter. You can access our link tree where we have a merch, where you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and where else you would download podcasts. Currently, right now, for the holidays, we're taking a little bit of a sabbatical. Just been a busy time, so we'll be back fresh with some new ideas and a new take coming in the new year of 2022.
Yes, you'll get some 2022 horror podcasts coming to you from the Trick or Treat podcast. As you may tell, I'm not used to doing this part of the show. This is not really my thing. I've actually come to depend on Austin, but I really did not want to skip this week because this week Winter is coming to you live from the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, Texas. They do call it Dallas. For me, as I'm in Oklahoma City, I consider this my local show. I consider this my home show. They don't come to Oklahoma, but Dallas is only about 2.5 hours away. So I've been to every Garland show that they've had. So this will be my third show. So I'm very excited. So I really wanted to give our preview and predictions for the show so people can listen to it the day of. And I love doing the show with JR. Me and JR spend countless time on the phone just talking about wrestling. So we pretty much could just record ourselves having our normal conversation and pretty much call it All Things Elite if we want to. So yeah, you will definitely, this is definitely comfortable for us. But before we get to that preview and prediction, which I'm so excited for, we are going to talk about last week, December 8th, Dynamite review from the, as MJF would put it, the greatest place on the earth, Long Island, New York. So, so me and JR both watched the show. I think we kind of watched it together, right? You know, for the most part.
Basically.
Yeah. So, we're going to just go through and get what we think. So, as the show hits, the UBS Arena in Long Island, before show hits, we comes into it, it is MJF's music playing. And we're like, oh, so they're starting with MJF. We're getting pumped up. And out comes CM Punk. And the crowd is booing them. The first real crowd to boo CM Punk. And CM Punk grabs the mic. He gets on the phone and he says, is that all you got? Chicago was so much louder. MJF is your guy, right? That's why I'm out here. The guy who said in my home Chicago that he's better than Roddy Piper in Portland. He's not a better than Roddy Piper in Hell Comes to Frogtown. I'm guessing that's a movie Roddy Piper was in that I personally have not saw. But, hey, that was still pretty funny. He went on and he really he leaned into... He was a heel. He was a heel in Long Island. He leaned into being a heel. He ran down the New York Islanders, because apparently the New York Islanders have never won a game in the UBS Arena as of this show. So he ran them down, and he went hard. So I am going to stop here because I could go through everything he said, but no point. But JR, what did you think of CM Punk's heel promo?
I thought it was extremely comical when you think about it. This is probably one of the few times, I don't want to say the first time because, my memory isn't as sharp as I like to think it is, but it's definitely, one of the few times you've seen something where a babyface or a fan favorite for pretty much every single city in the country is booed in another city. To me, it's very reminiscent back in 1997 where Bret Hart was a heel throughout the United States, but goes to Canada is cheered. And then all the Americans go to here in the United States, such as the Patriot or Vader or Shawn Michaels was cheered, and they go to Canada and they're hated. So I thought that was funny how they flipped the script and how, CM Punk really kind of turned on his heelish ways. I think it also added a new element. One of the things right now with this MJF CM Punk, this rivalry, or these two getting along, is they are not touching, which I think is great because it builds up like the anticipation once they, when they finally do get in the ring, and so it just allows that storyline to continue about them trying to one up each other until they eventually step in the squared circle.
Yes, and I think that's one thing they are really good at with MJF, and honestly, it's something that I grew up on, is like the really effective heels, they wouldn't get touched. They wouldn't touch until the big match, until the actual match that you had to pay for, whether it be you had to pay to come to the arena and see them, or building to a big show, it would be a while before they actually wrestled. So that is sticking with an old school tradition of just old school booking when it comes to AEW. I personally thought CM Punk played the role he needed to play. The goal was for MJF to be over in Long Island. He did everything he could for that to happen, as in they didn't play a Cult of Personality, because everyone likes to sing along to Cult of Personality at the beginning of the show. He comes in there and just destroys them. He just basically says, Long Island's the scum of the earth and MJF's the coward, and he's like, this is your guy. That's what he kept saying, is this is your guy. So a special message from our boy Austin. He says, just tell the listeners, my message on this week is AEW is Long Island is the scum of the earth, and all those fans should be banned from future shows for booing CM Punk. MJF, that's their guy. Yeah, so as you know, our friend Austin is very, very passionate about one thing in this world, and it is Mr. CM Punk. So he was taken aback by the nerve of these Long Islanders, these ungrateful Long Islanders that took time out of their life to fix their mouth to boo CM Punk. Yes, he was very upset with that. So CM Punk goes out. I think they played Colt's Personality on the way out, but he was getting booed at that point. So basically, he did throw out the challenge. He says next week, AEW champion Hangman Page faces the American Dragon Bryan Danielson at Winter is Coming 2. And after that, I like to get in the picture, and I know MJF wants to. So we need to settle this. So I'll lay out the challenge. I want MJF, and I want him one-on-one. And I don't want him to run like they do in Long Island. I want him to stand and fight like they do in Chicago. And I don't have an out for this. I want MJF versus CM Punk. I'll do it tonight. I don't think he'll agree to it. And I don't think there's a man in the building that'll agree to it. And that's your guy. You're all chicken shit. So that was the end of the promo when he left. The next thing up was the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. We get a vignette from outside of a man driving up in a red sports car. He gets out. He's wearing a Letterman jacket, and the announcer starts giving all the accolades of MJF. He never got taken down as a wrestler. He was an all-state football player, and he got lots of chicks. I thought that was the funny ones. Oh, yes, he got lots of chicks. So he comes out to the ring, and then the Battle Royal happens. We'll just skip to there's two main things that happen in the Battle Royal. Wartlow grabbed Lee Johnson and Leo Rush. It was at the rope trying to get him over. MJF dumped all three of them out and then, tried to apologize to Wartlow. We get to the last three. It is Dante Martin, Ricky Starks, and MJF. Dante Martin and Ricky Starks looks like they're going to attack MJF. Dante Martin then turns on Ricky Starks, throws him out, and the last two in the ring are Dante Martin and MJF. What did you think about that being the last two, JR?
Yeah, I've been really high on Dante Martin for a long time. I've been saying, in my opinion, he's the best luchador-style prospect I've seen since Rey Mysterio, going back to when Rey Mysterio was in ECW. Just his high-flying athleticism is amazing to watch. The one thing that was, and I don't disagree with him being, in the finals with MJF and having that match at Winter is Coming 2. The thing that, for me, that was awkward or just wasn't, I don't know if it was needed or necessary, or maybe they could have added a little bit to it, was Dante Martin. All of a sudden, one week he joins Team Taz, and I feel like nothing came of it in the sense of it just stopped at that point. And then this happened at in the Diamond Dozen Battle Royal, and then he just throws, Rick Starks over and takes off the FTW Taz, armband, and it's like, oh, I fooled you, but nothing was even said about it. So I don't know where they're going to go in this direction. If MJF is going to, basically retain for 2 years in a row, or if Dante's going to win, or, it'll continue a Dante Ricky Starks feud, who knows? But it should be a good match. So now we have the final step between Dante and MJF.
Since my beautiful friend JR, my good friend JR, does not watch Dark, he does not get the whole story, because on Dark, they had Dante Martin and Leo Rush. Dante Martin comes up to the Leo Rush, and he's like, I told you I had a plan. I told you I had a plan. And it was all part of the plan between Leo Rush and Dante Martin for Dante not to be the numbers game, not to play against Dante Martin in the Battle Royal. So it was Leo Rush's idea from the whole beginning, sir. So yes, you do know where it's going. He's harder of the highest flight. The highest flight. I wonder how Darius Martin is going to feel about it, because, they were top flight, and he said the highest flight. So that's better than top flight. So, I want to see what they going to do. But Taz is very upset we got swerved by, that they got swerved by Dante Martin. And he said he had a special announcement later on in the show. He got something for that. So then we have the acclaimed Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, and 2.0 Matt Lee and Jeff Parker, with Daniel Garcia in the back with them, versus Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr., with Christian Cage and Julia Hart, which I have to say, I did the Jurassic Park thing. I will never not make that mistake, because, every time I think Jurassic, because of my age, Jurassic is Jurassic Park. So it's kind of funny. So they have their match. Let's see. Jungle Boy locked in a snare trap and forced Caster to tap. Eddie Kingston jumped Daniel Garcia to stop him from interfering. Kingston took the camera backstage with him. Ortiz was back there with Kingston. Daniel Garcia in 2.0 jumped Kingston and Ortiz. Garcia screamed Buffalo at Kingston and pointed his finger at him in anger. Buffalo. So, do you remember this match? What did you think of it? I barely remember it, so I don't blame you if you don't.
It's just one of those matches where I think it's just to get a group of guys a win, and also further other storylines, as we saw getting with Eddie Kingston in 2.0. So
it feels like, at my point, Eddie 2.0 has kind of taken the spot of Angelico and Jack Evans, where you remember Angelico and Jack Evans would talk a lot of crap, and they would beat lower people on Dark, but generally they would have their match on Dynamite and always lose. And it just seems like they're in that mid-car heel tag team position that used to be saved for Jungle Boy. Used to be saved for Angelico and Jack Evans.
So the good thing with 2.0, and I believe is the one I'm referencing, is Jeff Parker, is they have a little bit of natural charisma, and they have the ability to talk, and they're kind of, I don't want, not chicken shit heels, but they are a heel that you would like to get beat up, and they have done stuff that's similar to that type of role, and I think that's where they've been able to fit in with AEW, whether it was going after Mox and now Kingston, whether it was Sting and Darby. So they found a good little place for them in AEW.
Yeah, they have definitely found their spot. I will always bring this up. I don't know how the WWE didn't make them work. They are such a WWE act. They have such a charisma. They are so funny. It just seemed like they were built to be like, let's just say I never heard of them before they came to AEW, and they were doing their act. I'm like, oh, these guys are going to end up in WWE. Vince is going to love these guys. They just get it. They're funny naturally. They can make everything work. And it was just, like I said, I will people have been on this, listen to the show, will know I brought it up. They're probably tired of me bringing it up, but I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just like these dudes have so more charisma in their pinky than most people have in their whole body. And they just, like I said, they can make everything work. I've seen them just make drinking a cup of coffee funny. The tough guys that get beat up. Like I said, I will never understand how it didn't work. Then we get, moving on though, we get backstage. FTR, Cash Will and Dex Harwood were backstage with Tully Blanchard. Lucha Bros, you've never beaten FTR. Your only victory is flute. I was illegal. We are the torchbearers of the tag team wrestling. Friday night on Rampage, we become the first ever two-time AEW tag team champions. Top guys out. I mean, just a simple little promo. I love what FTR does. I'm going to always be completely biased on how they're cutting promos. Do you have any thoughts on the promo of this?
The more you hear them talk, the more you wonder. Not that it's great that they have Tully. That's not great, but it's like they could be their own act.
Absolutely. Tully working the strategic line. Like I've always thought about, I know he'll never work there, but I've always thought about what if they actually got to work with Jim Cornette. And I don't know if it would work because Jim Cornette is usually the voice of his group. And Dax and Cash are so good at cutting promos and getting their points across, they almost don't need a manager. It was like, I think Tully finished off talking in this session, and I was just like, I don't feel like he added anything. And there's no disrespect to Tully Blanchard, one of the all-time great talkers. It's just, I feel like when they talk, they stand on their own.
And the other problem, too, with Tully is he has, he brings the element of, that he's a horseman, he's a legend. He has gotten physical a little bit, but because of his age, he doesn't get physical too much. And the way that FTR is, they're, throwbacks to yesteryear. And during that time where there was J.J. Dillon or Bobby the Brain Heenan, or even closer today with some of managers in the last 10 or 20 years, heel managers get physical, and totally doesn't really get physical or can't to a certain extent because of his age. So it's kind of, I don't want to say useless, but it's almost pointless of him being there because he can't do the things that a traditional manager would do if, let's say, he was 20 or 30 years younger. And it'd be interesting to see if they found an up-and-comer person that could be his new manager, could be FTR's manager.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think he would almost be more advantageous to a younger heel tag team.
Yes. Almost similar to like that, when Paul Ellering was with Authors of Pain.
Yes. Yeah, he was perfect for them. Yeah, they were so dominant, he didn't ever need to get physical. So it just worked. But they couldn't talk. That was another thing. Paul Ellering did the talking. And that was the whole thing. FTR is just such a good act on their own. I don't know, again, all the time what Tully adds to that act, but, it's Tully. So you don't question that. So the next match we'll jump right into is the Young Bucks. Matt and Nick Jackson. Nick is cleared from his heel injury. I guess after a little break, backfield felt better than he ever did before. Versus Chaos team they're very familiar with Rocky Romero and the Kentucky gentleman Chucky Taylor with fresh squeezed Orange Cassidy. This match was so I was posting on Twitter. I don't think the Young Bucks at this point in their life are capable of a bad tag team match. And based is just my style of tag team wrestling. What I prefer, our style is FTR, the 80s style, but the Young Bucks are so good and they understand their style so well that you can literally put any other two people on the side of the ring, and they're going to make it work. They're going to make it entertaining. This match was entertaining. The Bucks finished off Rocky Romero with the Meltzer driver. after distraction from Brandon Cutler. They got Rocky Romero alone. Before we go into what happened after the match, what did you think of the actual match, sir?
It was a good trios match, kind of what we were used to seeing especially with the Young Bucks, and now we're seeing more with Adam Cole. But
this was just a straight tag, though. There was a lot of interference. That's why I think that's why you thought it was a trios match.
You know what? It's because I got confused because during the match. So something that I saw, it happened last week with Orange Cassidy and Adam Cole and happened in this match. I was like, Orange Cassidy keeps getting his ass whooped. And for some reason, I thought I had forgot that he was in the match. But that's either here or there. There was a lot of outside, interference, distractions. But it's definitely building the storyline of best friends / chaos versus the Super Clique. And it's from last week and this week, one things I was like, man, best friends are getting their asses handed to them by Super Clique. Something needs to happen.
Yes, and speaking of something needing to happen, thank you for that beautiful segue, JR. But after the match, we got Adam Cole and the Bucks beginning to beat on Orange Cassidy. Wheeler Yuda ran down and he was outnumbered. Orange Cassidy Adam Cole hit Orange Cassidy with the Panama Sunrise. Cole and the Bucks were about to attempt a three-way BTE trigger until the Best Friends music starts, and you're like, there's Chris Stat, but they're out of Best Friends. Who could it be? Then you see what has become a staple of AEW wrestling, Sue rolling in her white car, and that can only mean one thing. Oh my God, I howled. My wife yelled at me when this happened because I actually yelled out and howled. Trent is back, and he comes out and he attacks the Young Bucks. He clears the ring. The Best Friends all hug because you know what? You got to give the people what they want. What did you think of the return of Trent in his hometown of Long Island? And he looked good.
Yeah, a new look. Trent has a shaved head, new attitude coming in, and definitely, going back to the Roppongi Vice days, I've been a fan of Trent. I just think he has a great look to him. I think he's great in the ring. Unfortunately, actually, the first time I came across Chuck E.T. was at Supercard of Honor 2018, and he was wrestling solo because Trent was hurt. And unfortunately, injuries have kind of, I think has taken the toll on him. So hopefully he's back, back and he's obviously in better health, and hopefully he can stay that way for a while. But it's good to see him because, no lie, it just Best Friends just didn't seem the same without Trent being there.
Yes, and it was, they even made the joke that Wheeler Yuta was actually Trent, and they had Rocky believing Wheeler Yuta is actually Trent. So I thought that was pretty cool. Having him come back, they're all doing a hug. The Best Friends now probably have the biggest faction next to the Dark Order. If you think about it. Because it's Trent, Chuck E.T., the actual Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, Chris Statlander, and Rocky Romero, and they're a part of Chaos. So, but if you think about it, just those are the 6 stateside members right now. Man, they're actually as big as the Super Clique. If you think about adding, Carl Anderson and Big LG, Luke Gallows. So, it's pretty cool. Good to have Trent back. He looked healthy. He shaved head. Looked like he's ready to go. So I don't know if are we going to get a Best Friends actual tag team versus Young Bucks? Are we going to get 3-on-3? Are we going to get 4-on-4? What are we going to get? I'm excited about it 4-on-4 because Bobby Fish has been hanging around with the Elite. Ruby Soho was backstage being interviewed by Alex Marvez. They were interrupted by the Bunny and Penelope Ford. So this was, to me, the funniest part of the night. The Bunny said after Nyla wins, the title. The Bunny and Penelope Ford will be first in line for a match. They challenged Ruby to a match this Friday. Nyla ambushed Ruby, and when she hit her, and only a Nyla away, she yells, "Surprise, bitch!" and then hits her. I thought that was so funny. Did you catch that when it happened?
Yes, I did. And one thing is, Nyla has some amazing one-liners during her time in AEW.
Yes, but the timing and yelling of it, because like usually a sneak attack will happen, and in your head you're kind of yelling "surprise, bitch," and it's just that she did it, and it was just like she said what everybody was thinking when that came out. So I thought that was funny. We had TNT champion Sami Guevara being interviewed by Tony Schiavone when the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes comes out. Cody said Tony Khan just announced that he'd be facing Sami in the next open challenge, which is on Christmas. Christmas. So I have to describe what happened because it's not really broken down here. Cody comes out and he says, "Your Christmas open challenge has been accepted." And he looks at Sami, shakes his hand, pulls him closely, and says, "Good luck, kid." Then teases like he's going to go out the heel side and then flips around and goes back out the face side. It was such a condescending moment. Like, if you didn't know, like, let's just say you've never seen Dynamite before and you saw the section and you asked a small child who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, they're going to say Cody's the bad guy. Because he was very much a dick in this, and it was not subtle. It was very much picked up. What did you think of Cody challenging good old Sammy G?
The first match on AEW Dynamite from Washington, D.C., if I remember correctly, was Sami Guevara versus Cody.
Yes.
And Cody got the win, and I don't believe they've had another match one-on-one since.
Correct. They have not. They have not touched since then.
Cody went on to become a two-time TNT champion. Lost the belt to Darby, and the lineage eventually gets to Sami Guevara. So Sami Guevara, obviously, in a lot different position he is over 2 years since that match, and so I'm sure he would love to get that loss off his record by potentially beating Cody. And Cody never, had get an opportunity to win the TNT title back since he lost it last Full Gear. It will definitely be an interesting match. You definitely, one of the things I liked, it was kind of like Cody saying, "Hey, good luck, kid." Because it's like, "Hey, you may be the TNT champion, but I still have your number," type. And that's the part to me that would be interesting to see where that goes, because just of all the talk of the, potential Cody heel turn. And just on a quick discussion as far as this Christmas match. So Rampage Christmas Eve falls on Friday, but the Christmas story has traditionally for decades, it seems at this point, has aired a 24-hour marathon of A Christmas Story, typically starting on TBS, but they've also been doing it on TNT. So beginning at 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve until 9 p.m. on Christmas Day, typically A Christmas Story will be aired. So because of that, Rampage will not air on Christmas Eve. Friday, it will air after A Christmas Story marathon on Christmas Day, December 25th, which is a Saturday. So that is when we'll get Sami Guevara defending his TNT championship against Cody Rhodes.
Yes, and I just kind of want to do a tiny interlude here. Title matches on pre-recorded shows. I don't like them. I understand why they have them. They draw, but I don't like them. Because I don't think you're going to ever do a title change on a pre-recorded show. So it's just like, to me, when you have a title match and it's going to show up on Rampage, I almost always assume, hey, it's going to probably be a good match, but I know the title's not changing hands. Do you have that same thought, sir?
I don't believe there'll be a title change. I do think there potentially could be something of importance that happens, but not a title change.
Yeah, like I watched the show and I'm waiting on something to happen, but I just know that the champion is going to keep the belt. That's how I feel. And I'm not saying this for AEW. It's just because of the words of spoilers, as soon as that title changes hands, however many thousand people are in there are going to be on their phone tweeting out that the title changed hands, and it's going to be spoiled anyway. So it's like all that excitement and hype that you get from a title change, you won't get because the show's pre-taped. So I just don't think they're ever going to change the title on a pre-tape. I may be wrong. I may be super wrong, but I just don't feel like it's going to happen. Like when Sami won, it was live, right? Right? It was live, yeah. And it's just like, I just don't see it happening on a pre-tape. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe no one else thinks about that. It's just how I see it. Then we had a what I call an amazing match. I think it is one of the better TV matches I've seen this year. We had Jamie Hayter versus Rhea. Big thing with this match, it was just like, it was really exciting. And Rio and Jamie's trained in the Joshi style. She's worked in Stardom, so they had amazing chemistry. The crowd was not into this match at all. There was no heat from the crowd into this match. But if you just watch it and you just pay attention, don't pay attention to the crowd, it's an amazingly worked match. I thought Jamie Hayter was very physical. Rio played the underneath really well, and in the end, Rio sent Hayter crashing with a crucifix bomb and then the running knee, and Rio pinned Hayter. Britt Baker and Rebel jumped in the ring after the match. Baker applied the lockjaw on Rio, trying to incapacitate her before their upcoming match. What did you think of this match, sir?
I thought it was okay. I've always felt I've been kind of hard on Rio because as I'm a sizist in professional wrestling, I like big, giant individuals. And Rio, I think, is extremely talented, but because of her size, I think sometimes things happen that make certain spots difficult. And one of the ones that was interesting was on the outside. Jader was talking with Britt and Rebel, and Rio was climbing the top turnbuckle to do basically a splash to the outside. And I don't know what went wrong, but it's almost as Rio hit Hayter and bounced down, but Hayter was able to catch her. So for me, Rio just isn't my cup of tea. And I think it's just because the style she wrestles sometimes against bigger opponents. Because I think if you look at the women's division in AEW, and I think Jamie's one of them. She's just a little bit bigger than Britt Baker or let's say even Ruby Soho. So I think it's just sometimes difficult to pull off some of the offensive maneuvers that Rio has.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Not everything's for everybody. Rio is really, really small, so... Oh, I'm sorry, I had to sneeze there for a second. Rio is really, really small, so some people can't get behind that, especially with our offense. But, yeah, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was one of the better women's matches that I've seen worked. And then we had Tony Schiavone out to interview the varsity. Oh, yeah, sorry, I skipped over very important. Taz had his major announcement this Friday on Rampage. Taz sends Hook. So Hook, and he'll face Fuego del Sol. Hook will be making his debut on Rampage as he faces Fuego del Sol. Then we had Tony Schiavone interview with the Young Bucks on the Varsity Blondes, not the Young Bucks, the Varsity Blondes on the ramp. When the arena lights turned out, Malachi Black appeared out of darkness. He blew black mist into the face of Julia Hart. She screamed in agony. The lights turned out, and Malachi was gone. So what did you think of that, sir? Where do you think that's going?
I'm confused because the last time I felt we had Andrade and Cody, we had Pac and Malachi after it was Andrade and Pac and Malachi and Cody. I think things are broken off in those two feuds. I thought things were still going on with Pac and Malachi, but I have no idea what's happening. I'm assuming we're going to get to a match with I'm going to say Griff Garrison and Malachi. Because that's how it kind of seemed based on like Griff's mannerisms, and it's one of those things where maybe it'll happen in 2 weeks just to get Malachi, a win that eventually lead to a bigger match. But I'm just a little bit confused.
I don't know why this happened. I like being in that position sometimes. I've seen different takes online that this could be turning Julia Hart to the dark side. I would be intrigued to see what that looks like as maybe the House of Black is growing. I'm as someone that saw the recent ROH final show, I'm very excited, and hopefully Brody King can join in with Aleister Black. They share the same look. They're currently the PWG Tag Team Champions, and I just think that would add so much to the act. But we will see going forward. What this means for Malachi Black and Julia Hart going forward. The next thing was the main event. It was Bryan Danielson.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
It used to be hard to find the exact auto parts you needed, and that meant spending a lot of time at swap meets. It's a different game now when you can order exactly what you need from eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts, so you can always find the right fitment. Spend less time searching and more time building with the eBay Motors app, or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Versus Dark Order John Silver. Yeah, he beat him up. I mean, John Silver looked good. I think he looked good. He got a lot of offense in, did a lot of reversals. I thought this, but it was basically a replay of Bryan Danielson beating up the Dark Order for the last few weeks. So, yeah, that's what we've been getting. What do you think of the match, sir?
I mean, I love John Silver. When you talk about charisma, and while he is short, he reminds me of the Pokemon Machop because he is strong as can be. If you ever had a chance to meet John Silver and you see him when he does the double bicep pose, I mean, he's a legit strong man, and he has quickness and he has speed and he has power, and it's one of those things where sometimes good things come in small sizes. And this was, for me, offensive dominated by Bryan Danielson, which is everything was to make Bryan Danielson into this, in my opinion, an unstoppable force, which is what you would want going into a title match against your world champion. So it's just part of the storyline, and I'm just glad that John Silver got a chance to wrestle in his neck of the woods in that arena with that crowd.
How many times is John Silver going to main event a show? And he main evented in Long Island in front of his friends and family. Unfortunately, this was not one of the times. AEW is usually really good about giving you feel-good moments in front of your hometown like they did with Trent and to a point with MJF. But, so they did not give him a good going away, but Bryan Danielson won. I did forget to mention something before we finish this up. After the Dynamite Battle Royal, MJF was heading to the back. Ricky starts attacking Dante Martin, and then MJF started acting like he was going to save him. The fans were cheering for him to save him. He's like, no. And he runs down there, and they think he's going to save him, but no. As he is truly a heel, he starts beating up on Dante Martin, and they started cheering that because in Long Island, MJF can do no wrong. I forgot that. It felt like it was a big part of the beginning because he really teased like he was about to do something like a face, and no, he stuck to who his character was. I skipped that part. That was pretty funny.
What's funny was because of this show, some people are like, MJF could be a great babyface. I'm like, absolutely not. This guy cannot be a great babyface. Everything about him is a heel. And yeah, he did get cheered Long Island, and he has he has a look, and he just soaks in the crowd. And he did. He had a babyface moment, but I mean, I couldn't even imagine MJF trying to cut a babyface promo or coming off as a babyface. Even when he was with Cody, he was still, just put it blunt, he was a dick heel, and that's what I mean. That's what he does, and he does it extremely well, better than anybody else today. And I could not imagine him being a babyface throughout every single territory.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that should always be one thing. I think you should always leave it open for everybody to move as need be. I think Rey Mysterio should pretty much always be a face, and I think MJF should always be a heel. I just think that's the way it should be. And, call me wrong, call me right, but that's just how I see it. So, Yeah, MJF should always be a heel. So I completely agree with that. And that was it for Dynamite. We're about to go into Rampage. Let me pull up my Rampage notes. Rampage was, 4 matches? We opened up with Rampage with our favorite tag team, FTR versus the Lucha Bros. They had what I consider a really good, I wouldn't call it great, back and forth match. I felt like the Lucha Bros were off on a lot of spots. It was just everybody has a bad night, and I just felt like they were off. I don't know. Did you see the same thing?
As people know, FTR is yours and my favorite tag team. Lucha Bros is up there for me as one of my favorite tag. Top two is FTR and Lucha Bros. Like trying to pick between my kids, and I just can't do it. It's so hard. But I'm an FTR Lucha Bros. I love them to death. But I think when it's all said and done, and you look at Rampage, is essentially a commercial is 45 minutes. And what FTR and Lucha Bros can, and what they need to do to tell a story, having a match that I believe was shortened because of the time constraints of Rampage was a detriment to both teams, and felt like a lot of things were rushed. And when you do the type of stuff that Lucha Bros do in the ring, I just don't think you can rush those type of matches. And so I'm hoping there's another, a concluding chapter in this story, because I don't think that's the right way to end this match, in this rivalry between Lucha Bros and FTR.
Yeah, well, after the match, or the next day, you see a clip from Dak showing that Cash's foot was under the rope when the 3.3 count was counted. I think this might lead to more matches in the future. I do think there should be a wait. I think the Lucha Bros should defend the titles against a couple more other people, and then maybe come back to FTR, because we've gotten the match, to me, too much too soon. And thing with AEW, they're very good at not doing that. And I just think we've gotten that match too much too soon. But something happened during the weekend that we'll talk about in just a moment that may spread this out a little bit. The next match was a trios match. We had Ruby Soho, Anna Jay, and Ty Conti versus Nyla Rose, the Bunny, and Penelope Ford. And what did we get? Anna Jay. Okay, hold on a second. I don't remember who won. So, oh, yes. Yeah, I remember this. Vicky passed Brass Knucks to the Bunny, and she decked Anna Jay. Nyla Rose hit Anna Jay with the Beast Bomb and pinned her. Nyla Rose enlisted Penelope Ford and the Bunny to take out Ruby Soho, and ahead of the semifinals, like, how much damage did they really do? I thought this was a good match. Yeah, I don't think I really think they should have hit Ruby with the Brass Knucks. I really think that should have happened. But in this case, Anna Jay took the brass knuck shot and lost. What did you think of this match?
It was, to me, it can just tease to set up your Nyla Rose, Ruby Soho semifinals for the TBS championship. You know, there's some, as we said earlier, with like CM Punk and MJF, you know, they're furthering storyline without touching in this situation. And it's happened before where you get two competitors in the ring and sometimes it's a tag match. Sometimes they're even on the same size of a tag match just to get that interaction. So I thought it was, you know, giving us a little bit of a taste before we get that semifinal match.
Yes, absolutely. It is leading to something going forward, and I love that they're building on what's going forward, moving to that match, and it's just adding storylines into the TNT tournament is good. The next match we had Tony's backstage with Darby Allin and Sting. They get attacked by FTR. FTR held up Sting until he was about to kick Sting. Darby Allin launched himself into FTR, knocking him down before Tully could get the kick in. Cash sent Darby flying into the loading dock door. FTR held up Sting again until he finally connected with the low blow to Sting. One more time, Sting. Tully stayed with a spurt. I just have a feeling, strong feeling, of Floyd. It's coming through strong that it seems like that we're going to get FTR versus Sting and Darby on Rampage. What do you think, sir?
Well, we've had the match before, and I thought the issue was dead. And for us to transition to this from the Lucha Bros, as well as some other stuff that occurred over the weekend, I'm not sure why this is happening. I thought, and I don't know how far you go with this, especially with, you know, I don't want to say I feel Darby's lost, but since getting Sting and losing the TNT championship, while we had the good feud with CM Punk, but he's since lost to CM Punk, lost to MJF. I really think he needs some big singles wins to get back, like, you know, where he was at this time last year.
I will tell you this: Sting performs in Dallas. That's how it is. So we're in Dallas. That's why they did the match, so Sting can wrestle in Dallas, because Sting is from Dallas. A lot of people don't know that, but Sting lives in Dallas. That's his home. So
wait, he's not from Venice Beach, California.
I mean, he might have been in the 80s. I mean, I don't think do they say he's from there now? I don't think they say anything of where he's from. Yeah.
As of current writing, he is not scheduled, but that doesn't mean he won't be for Rampage.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it's going to be on Rampage because they don't have any matches scheduled for Rampage at this point. So I just think that's how it's going to go. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I'll be happy because I'll be there no matter what. So then we had Taz versus Fuego del Sol. And actually, let me just say this. I'm going to let, because JR has had some feelings about this match. And JR has watched this match, I think, at least 5 times. So honestly, this is the first we do this with when it comes to Austin and CM Punk. I'm just going to let you take the review on this. Go.
Well, as we know, this was the debut of Hook, who is a second-generational star, the son of Taz, and he comes out to an Action Bronson song called Chairman's Intent, and I thought the song was pretty awesome. I'm a country boy, but when I heard the song, the way it started, I thought it was really cool. He comes out, and Hook has this, as soon as you see him, he has a swagger about him. He just has a look that he knows he belongs there, and that he knows he belongs there. Gets into the ring and goes straight to the turnbuckle with his back towards his opponent, who's Fuego del Sol, and the referee, and he's just like waiting, like, just let me know when the bells ring, because I'll get started. And I think they couldn't have picked a better opponent for him in this first match. Fuego del Sol. Fuego del Sol is, he is a luchador, does a little bit high flying, but he can bump like crazy, as we've seen. I think, unfortunately for Fuego, his record is like 7-33. I think heading into this match, so he is on the end of quite a bit of losses. But again, that's why he's there with AEW. He has a position there, and the match starts. And quickly, the first thing you notice about Hook as they go into a collar and elbow tie up is his transitions to collar and elbow, to a headlock, belly to back, judo throw, and back again to another judo throw that occurs. He's utilizes pretty, in my opinion, great grappling. I think for the most part, the transitions he was doing was extremely fluid and tight. It didn't look like it was forced. It didn't look like he was him or Fuego was waiting on spots. He did very well in what he was able to do. We saw him do some counters. One was a hip toss counter. One was a counter to the tornado DDT of Fuego. It just really takes it to him, and eventually ends up using a Taskplex, as well as, I grew up with, the first time I heard it was called the Katahajime Main, also known as Tasmission, on Fuego to get the tap, but which we found out later will be called Red Rum, which, if spelled backwards, is murder. So Hook in a squash match gets the win over Fuego del Sol, and there's a lot of hype about it. I will say, what you did see is, offensively, some of the things, he is a natural athlete. There's some things when you go into professional wrestling, is some people are natural athletic and some are not. I'll give you an example. The Hall of Famer, Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, he is not a natural athlete. I think he will tell you that. He said it. So he had to work really hard doing what he did to get over. But you have other people who have an athletic background, whether it's The Rock, whether it's Kurt Angle, whether it's Mark Henry. They're just individuals who have some sort of athletic background that gets it. Hook, he grew up grappling. Taz talked about a commentator. So you see his movement, and it just comes more natural to him. And the term I use is fluid. And so I think he has the ability to potentially be a success in what you saw, but it was very little. There are things that we haven't seen. We didn't see him sell at all, essentially. I think Fuego only got like 2 offensive maneuvers in that whole thing, and we haven't heard him talk. So while the sky's the limit for Fuego, it would be interesting to see. But basically right now, to me, he's basically Goldberg. He's 1-0, and he's offensively, so we need to see him be able to do other things so that way he can actually live up to the hype that I would say many of us are creating for him, that is, I don't want to say not deserved, but is not right to him to build him up to being like the second coming of the greatest wrestler of all time.
That was my take. I love that the internet went in for Hook. I mean, I think Hook deserves it. Don't get me wrong. Hook is, he looked really good. But like I said, there's a lot to being a professional wrestler, and I'd say I've seen about 20% of what makes a great professional wrestler in Hook right now. So I'm going to reserve judgment for the future. But like I said, it was a very big deal on the online. Send Hook shirt, one of the best selling shirts on Shop AEW. Keep that going. Keep supporting Hook. I love excitement. I'm not going to be the one to say calm down, because that's not really me. I'm like, calm up, get excited. You know what I mean? It's just, so I am happy that there's excitement over Hook, but I think we have yet to see how great he looked. A lot better than a lot of people have in their first match in AEW, and I do think a lot of that has to go. And I think the people don't recognize that a lot of that credit goes to Fuego del Sol. I mean, a lot of that credit goes to Fuego's heel soul. He did his job. His job was to make Hook look good. He did a wonderful job of doing that. So now we move on to the main event of Rampage. It's Adam Cole, baby, versus Wheeler Yuta. This was a solid match. Cole kicked Wheeler Yuta in the head. We got to that point. Cole lowered the boom with the running knee and pinned Yuta. Message sent to Orange Cassidy is what Excalibur said. Best friends Orange Cassidy and Rocky Romero entered the ring to check on Wheeler. Bobby Fish pulled out Trent by the ankles and cracked him with a roundhouse kick to Trent's surgically repaired back. The Young Bucks and Adam Cole descend on Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, Chuck Taylor, and Rocky Romero with the stomps. Look at this. Cole and the Bucks with all-out assault on the best friend, said Excalibur. The Bucks held Orange Cassidy as Adam Cole kicked Orange with a low blow. Bobby Fish rolled Trent back in the ring. The triple BTE trigger on Trent to say, welcome back to AEW. What did you think of this match and the finish?
I just go back to, man, the best friends are getting their ass kicked by Super Click. I mean, you're talking about with the exception of Trent's come back at the end for the save. I mean, they've been dominated. So I am, I'm with the storyline, but I mean, best friends are gonna have to get some sort of offensive, maneuvers or offensive finish or some W's against Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, because right now it's a one-sided beating and Super Click swinging the hammer.
Yes, it's very much one-sided. I'm thinking this is going to go to a street fight because that is honestly like the best friends signature match, and I think we're going to get a best friends. We're going to get the original three, Orange Cassidy, Chucky T, and Trent versus Adam Cole, baby, and the Young Bucks. That's what I think we're ultimately leading to. I'm very excited to see that when that happens, but we got a lot of matches and a lot of things set up. So that was it for Rampage. We'll talk quickly about what happened Saturday at the ROH final battle, which might be their final show. The thing that is AEW related is there was a tag match between the Briscoes and FTR, who have had a back and forth going on Twitter. The Briscoes beat the OGK, which is Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They beat them. Maria Kanellis actually came down to the ring to them. But yes, that match happened, and after the match, after the Briscoes won, the lights went off for an exceedingly long time. Even JR was like, dude, when it's going to come back on? And who comes back on is standing on the apron is who else but FTR, Dax Wilder, and Cash Wheeler. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. I don't know why I said that. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, they jumped in the ring. A fight ensued. The breakups happened. More fighting happened. And they brought it. Dax then sent a tweet today, or I think he sent a tweet a few days ago, and basically said talk shit, and then the Briscoes left a very Briscoes promo return that it looks like we're going to eventually, maybe in AEW, get FTR versus the Briscoes. How excited are you about this, sir?
For close to the last 20 years, I believe Ring of Honor was founded around 2001. I remember seeing a video. I think I still have it here somewhere. It was Eddie Guerrero's run in Ring of Honor, which was two events. It occurred, I believe, it was 2002. And JR Briscoe was on those cards. So that's how long they've been a part of Ring of Honor. I mean, going back for almost 20 years, they've been a part of Ring of Honor, I think, for the entire run. And they've been known in those almost 2 decades as one of the best tag teams to be in professional wrestling that has never set foot in in another company outside of Ring of Honor, not TNA, not WWE, and now not AEW. I mean, obviously they were New Japan at one point that I do remember, but they were known as one of the best, to do it. And FTR is known as one of the best teams. And when you look at whether it's just something that's raw and something that's organic and not forced, and kind of a throwback to just brutal nostalgia type tag team wrestling. I don't think you can get it better than Briscoes and FTR, and it definitely would be interesting to see what is the environment. One would think, man, this would be great for AEW Revolution in Orlando. I said, man, what could be if they wanted to do it sooner? You have the first ever special for AEW Battle of the Belts, and you have the new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions of Briscoes versus the AAA Tag Team Champions FTR in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not saying it's snapping there, but it seems like, man, stars align perfectly. Champion versus champion on the event called Battle of the Belts. So only time will tell, but it's definitely going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be extremely physical. I don't think, probably the exception of DIY and American Alpha, but it's going to be in a different way. This is going to be a physical, brutal matchup. It's going to be a fight.
Yeah, and no flips, no fist, just fist. This is what this is about. This is what they're talking about when they say no flips. This is going to be a fight. They said they did an interview last week, and they said, hey, we're going to make the Briscoes happen. The Briscoes, they've been sniping back at each other, and it felt like it was coming. And I just love how they laid the foundation for this eventual feud that, like I said, I'll be honest and say I didn't even know I wanted this feud until I saw them look face to face, and I was like, oh my God, this might be magic. These four might be exactly what each other needs, because they're kind of the same no-nonsense style. So it's going to very much be styles that match up with each other, and it's going to be fun. Like FTR dealt with the Bucks, a lot of fast pace. It's a very fast paced new style of wrestling. They've dealt with the Illusion Bros, very fast paced style. But when they deal with the Briscoes, it's going to be punches. It's going to be just straight fighting, and I love that. And I'm not saying the Briscoes can't fly, because I've definitely seen the boys fly. The froggy bow, it's one of those moves just that is stuck in your head. But good Lord, I think this is going to be fighting, and I don't think this is going to be one match. I think this is going to escalate. So I'm looking forward to it in the future. I'm hoping I'm at each and every one of the matches. And I've told JR, and I flat out said it, if I have enough time, if I have enough notice, I'm not talking about tell me on Friday for a Wednesday show, but if they say in 2 weeks, this match is going down, in that 2 weeks, your boy will be there. Hopefully JR can be there too, because I just think this is going to be one of the ones that you talk about for years to come. It's either going to be, to me, I feel like it's either going to be an all-time classic or it's going to be an all-time letdown. I think there's no in between. Do you agree, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things where I think, honestly, the longer, this is a matchup that needs to happen as soon as possible. And this sounds weird I say that, but the reason why is the longer you build up to it, it's going to build the hype up. And when you build the hype up for too long, you get a situation where no matter how great the match is, it won't live up to the hype. So for me, doing it within the next 2 or 3 months is extremely important, because the more you see them chirping online, the more you see them, interacting, is just going to build that hype up.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree. I think it does need to happen fairly soon. I'm like, whenever you decide, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later. Just remember that, so I can have time. Yeah, that's it for this week's shows. We now into Our winner is coming preview live from Garland, Texas. One has become my favorite city to watch AEW. I like literally, if you look at the order, I think for me, it's Chicago is where I've seen the most shows. Jacksonville would be second, and then Dallas is third. So I'm really looking forward to going again. And this will be my wife who is attending with me first show. So I'm very excited for my wife to attend the AEW show. I've gotten to know a lot of people around, where the security and stuff, and, where I wave and say hello and they know who I am. So it'd be cool to be like, hey, this is my wife. She lets me go on all these things because I always said I wouldn't be the fan that I am, the statewide traveler if my wife didn't let me, and she definitely does. So there's only 4 things announced. I thought we might get an announcement on the 14th about another match, but we didn't. So we only have 4 matches, so just going to go kind of in order. And JR wants to say the match. Just let me know who you think's going to win and any other comments you have. Dynamite Diamond Final, MJF versus Dante Martin. What do you got?
I'm going to go, I don't know if it's going to be considered an upset, but I'm going to go with Dante Martin. I just think he's an up-and-comer that a lot of people like. And, it's MJF. MJF has had that ring for over 2 years. And I think it's time to crown a new champion. And I think it's going to do more for him than it will do for MJF.
And I absolutely agree. I think Dante Martin will win. I think it'll definitely have something to do with Lio Rush and CM Punk having some kind of interference in this match. And MJF is one of those people. He has only been pinned by John Moxley, Jungle Boy, and Chris Jericho, right?
To my knowledge, yes. I know for a fact Jericho and Moxley.
I think Jungle Boy was in a tag match or something like that.
Yes.
So he doesn't get pinned a lot. So when he loses, it means something. So Dante getting this win would definitely mean something. He can say, I beat MJF. I pinned MJF. No matter what goes on around it, and MJF is going to say it's because people interfered, and that's going to make him want to fight CM Punk more, which is, I think, the goal of CM Punk. The next match we're going to talk about is the match I'm honestly most looking forward to. It is Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida 3. And I'll start. The reason I'm mostly looking forward to this match is because I've seen these two wrestle before. They have super chemistry, and they did this thing where Shida beat her to keep her from getting to 50, and then Shida won the second time by roll up, and it's just a very exciting non-title feud, which I think is very important for them to establish that the women in their company can have feuds that are not for the belt, because that's what kind of makes the women secondary, because it's like if it's not for the belt, then the match don't matter. So this match definitely matters. So I am definitely thinking I'm going to go Serena Deeb. I'm going to go Serena Deeb on the win. So what do you think, sir?
I think Serena Deeb, and I will say this, at the end of the day, I think the winner of this a match between Shida and Serena Deeb will be the first challenger for the TBS championship.
You think they'll be the first challenger for the TBS championship? That's cool. That's a different take. Who did you say we're going to win?
I'm going to go with Serena Deeb.
You're going to go with Serena Deeb. I just think if Shida wins, that almost puts her automatically back into the title picture, and I think they want to hold off on that for a while. So I definitely think that would be something that they want to hold off on for a while. So, so I definitely agree with that. The next match, I think we both know who's going to win. It's Matt Seidel versus Wartlow. So, Wartlow.
I think the better question is, what's the over-under? I'm going to go with 2 minutes.
I'm going to go 5. Seidel doesn't get squashed. He loses, but they generally let Seidel do with it. And not with there only being 4 matches on the card, I think they might give them a few more minutes to go, and then Wartlow gives them the knee and knocks them out. So, It was a weird match to add. Like I said, I was expecting some kind of tag team match, 6-man match, but I think they're trying to give Danielson and Hangman plenty of time, and I think there's some room for some surprises in here. All right,
I will say this real quickly. I think we've been seeing seeds for a while, but I think they're starting. My big theory is starting. Winter is coming. You're going to see a very big trajectory jump towards getting a potential MJF Wartlow split. It's going to start on this show with MJF losing to Dante Martin due to some outside chicanery. We're definitely going to get to CM Punk and MJF, but I think after that we're going to get to Wardlow and MJF before the end of the year. But I'm going to say before summer gets here.
All right. Yeah, that would be awesome. I will definitely check on that. Hold on a second. All right. And last match, and I'll let you start. Bryan Danielson versus Hangman.
I mean, you cannot have Hangman lose the championship in this first title defense. It's going to be a hard. Obviously, you know how Bryan Danielson wrestles, hard hitting, grappling. He's going to stretch you. He's going to hurt you. But at the end of the day, I just think Hangman Adam Page is going to persevere. And what a better way to start your championship reign. You beat a gentleman who many think is the greatest professional wrestler in this era, Kenny Omega. And his first successful title defense is against a man who many believe is the greatest of this era, Bryan Danielson.
Yes, I think it's going to be an amazing match. I think it's going to be action-packed. I think it's going to be an action-packed match that will tear the house down. Bryan Danielson, like the Bucks, impossible to have a bad. He is impossible. He just doesn't have bad matches. So I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be the one to definitely carry this to the great, and he's going to play the heel that Hangman needs him to play. And I think after a match, I think we're going to get the handshake. And I think, Bryan Daniels I needed to do what I needed to do to get the best out of you because I wanted to face the best. I needed angry Hangman. So I did what I had to do to get that version of you. So he's not really a bad guy, but he had to play a bad guy to get what he needed out of Hangman. But I am just honored and tickled pink to use an old man term that I get to be there for this match. I think, Bryan Danielson, if not, he's one of the best in the world. I think Hangman is just getting into his zone, and I just think this is a match that can show you what Hangman is capable of doing. I do think we're going to get a big debut after the match. I don't know who it is. I just have a feeling that they're going to set up big as far as somebody as either the Hangman's next challenger or whatever, but I am looking forward to the show, and I am going to just enjoy it all. Yeah, any thoughts? Any other thoughts, sir?
No, I just think it's actually cool that you'll be able to be there. And I don't think you mentioned it, but you will have been at both Winter is Coming. You were there last year at Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley in Jacksonville. Now you're here for Hangman Adam Page and Bryan Danielson in Garland, Texas. You've had the opportunity to see many big world championship matches in AEW's history. So I just think that's awesome. And, I think, as Tony Khan mentioned, definitely tune in tomorrow as well, because there may be some surprises as well as in subsequent weeks. So tomorrow should be a big pay-per-view level event in Garland.
All right, and that's it for our preview for Winter is Coming. Just a few news and notes. AEW Revolution Weekend is going to be March 4th, 5th, and 6th in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be at the Edition Arena, which is owned by UCO. It's where their college basketball team. Tickets go on sale Friday, with the pre-sale being Thursday morning. Then they announced shows February 16th in Nashville. That's going to be a live Dynamite and a Rampage taping. And then Bridgeport, Connecticut, Wednesday, February 23rd. That's going to be a live Dynamite and a Rampage taping. Last, Amanda Huber, go to her website, go to her Twitter. There's a link to her Players Tribune article, and it is, me and JR both read it. It is very in-depth about what she had to deal with, either, first of all, the beginning of her relationship beginning of her relationship with Brody and all of that, and leading to his death and everything in between, even the difficult task of telling her son that his dad is going to pass away. So it's very hard for a moment. Tears. I've heard tears. She's a very strong woman. I'm one of those things. I don't think you have to read it, but I don't think it would be a waste of time for you to read it. So, I think that's it for the show. JR, you have anything else to say?
Everybody have a happy and safe holiday season, and stay dry out there because it's been wet across America.
Yes, and I leave the same. You have a safe holiday. Austin, we miss you. Can't wait for you to be back next week. Running the show and hosting the show is very hard. I've been tongue-tied. Like 97 times. So I'm very happy that you'll be back and I can just, chime in with my part. So for JR, this is Floyd. I am saying, whether it is home, work, or school, always do your best to be elite.
You've had this problem before. When it comes to finding the perfect gift, what do you get for the person who has everything? Thanks to Kohl's, you can give the gift a great sleep. Find the comfiest bedding from Serta, Cuddle Duds, The Big One, and more to bring the best rest they've had all year. Get your picks even sooner when you shop online with fast and free store pickup, or head to a Kohl's near you.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.